only mode.
Welcome to the USAGSO West Pacific Overseas Committee Chair Orientation Webinar. The Overseas Committee Chair is the lead administrator for our overseas committees, and the position must be filled for troops to meet on any of our installation. This webinar is meant to be a supplement to the Overseas Committee Chair Orientation and the OCMT binder Dropbox that's available from your area lead advisor. So let's begin. In this webinar, we will be covering the following: job description, appointment and the OCMT guide, managing the Overseas Committee, general administration, staff support, volunteer management, deadlines and expectation, commonly used forms, and the planning calendars. Once again, please note that this is a quick overview of what the Overseas Committee Chair covers, and that your OCMT binder and your OCC conference orientation with your lead advisor will supplement this information. First, I would like to say welcome to the Overseas Committee Chair position. Serving as an Overseas Committee Chair is the most important position in overseas Girl Scouting. Our mission overseas is the same as it is in the United States. Girl Scouting builds girls of courage, confidence, and character who make the world a better place. Without you, there could not be Girl Scout troops on your military installation. You are the critical person who enables all the magic of the Girl Scout program to be part of the lives of the girls there on your installation. Now, as being part of an overseas committee on your installation, you are even part of a bigger organization here called the USAGSO West Pacific region. USAGSO West Pacific is headquartered in Camp Zam, Japan, which is on mainland Japan, and was created through an agreement between the Department of Defense and GSUSA, which provides supports to adults and girls participating in the Girl Scout organization. Our jurisdiction is called a region, and we serve 15 overseas committees like your own in 2 Asian countries, Japan and South Korea. Now, we do not refer to any of our overseas groups as council or service unit. These are terms only used in the United States. So, if you yourself came from the States or you have volunteers that have come from the States, you may hear them ask, well, is this our council? Is this our service unit? Just happily let them know that this is your region. You're part of the West Pacific region, and this is our overseas committee here at this installation. So let's take a look at the position of Overseas Committee Chair. So you'll see here on the screen that the term expires June 30th of each year and may be reappointed and is appointed by and accountable to the lead advisor. The purpose of the position is to ensure that troops are organized, registered, and maintained, and that Girl Scouting is offered to all available girls. As well, helps all troop adults become increasingly effective in safely providing the Girl Scout program to all girls at their military installation. Now, there are several accountabilities that you see here on the screen. I'm going to read just a couple. So for the first one, making sure that you are adhering to the Girl Scout of USA policies and that you ensure that authority to operate as a private organization is obtained from your installation and that the Constitution and bylaws are reviewed and forwarded annually to your military approving organization and USAGSO West Pacific. And that you also represent and interpret Girl Scouting in your community, as well as you're participating in any of your monthly OC webinar calls, and that you're sharing and forwarding materials and information with the OCMT troop leaders, your volunteers, your girls, parents, as requested in a timely manner. And then I'm going to take a look at that last bullet there under accountabilities, because this is very important. Everything else, of course, is important, but this is that you maintain confidentiality throughout, as well as following your appointment. You are the lead administrator for the Girl Scouts at your installation. So there's a lot of information that you will have be privy to. So this is the time you need to make sure you're maintaining confidentiality. Then, of course, we have our qualifications. That you're registered as a member of the Girl Scouts of the USA, you demonstrated skills in management and supervision and can work well with others, and you have the necessary time to commit to the position, and that you're fully committed to the Girl Scout program and its values, and you have the ability to work with people of all racial, ethnic, religious, and socioeconomic backgrounds. Now, for some of our overseas committees, they may decide to have co-chairs. So you may have 2 or even 3 people that are taking on the position of chair, and that is okay. So let's take a look at those co-chair positions. The position that we have on the screen now is our program position, so you'll see the term and who it is pointed about is the same, but the position of the position is a little different, ensuring girls and volunteers are recruited and placed into troops or other program pathways, making sure that the Girl Scouting is offered to all girls, and assist in making Overseas Committee program events available throughout the year, including the summer, and serves as the authority on safety activity checkpoints and the Girl Scout program issues, and works to ensure that Girl Scout organization has a positive image in the community. So this person is here. They're your visibility person. They're your person that's doing the program. So the accountabilities focus on that. And the qualifications are the same as we saw in the current position. Now on the administrative side, you'll see the term is the same, appointed by, and the purpose of this position is to ensure all the administrative functions are in place to support a vital, healthy Girl Scout program and positive image in the community. You still see they're working in the community, they're still with the visibility, but they're working more on the administrative side. So some people say that's the back office side, the paperwork side. The one who'll say, I'll handle all the paperwork. I'm the one, I'll deal with all the records, I'll do the insurance. This is where that administrative side is. So they may be the one working with the treasurer more to make sure the records are all in place, or maybe the secretary, making sure the minutes and all of the volunteer applications are all in place. So great if you have two people who are interested in being overseas committee chairs and are appointed. It may be a co-position, and that is okay. Again, the qualifications are the same as it was in the previous position description. Now, once an overseas committee chair has been appointed by the lead advisor, there is an agreement piece. You'll see the form here on the screen where you will fill that out and include, of course, the login and passwords for any online accounts that the overseas committee has, such as Facebook, email, and the post office box, and any other pieces. We have people who have Twitter accounts, things of that nature. The reason for that is that if, as we are in the military, people move. You are deployed. You may have a deployment. So an active duty overseas committee chair cannot have their position at the point because they wind up having to be deployed for a long period of time. Or you might just be stationed somewhere else mid-year, came up. You're not PCSing in May, you're PCSing in December. So the whole point of this is to make sure that we have this information on file. So as the next overseas committee chair moves out, we can just seamlessly pass this information on and it isn't lost in transit. Then this form, of course, is turned into your lead advisor and kept on file at headquarters. Now, as part of being the Overseas Committee Chair, there are, of course, different things that you'll be managing, such as your Overseas Committee Management Team. Then you'll have your Overseas Committee Management Team meetings and your leaders meetings. There's OC Finances, Overseas Committee Minutes. Then you'll be putting together your community profile and plan of work with your team. So let's first take a look at the responsibilities of the Overseas Committee. The committee ensures that the girls and the adults meet membership requirements, ensures that the girl and the adults subscribe to the purpose, adhere to all policies, and maintain the standards of GSUSA as well as USAGSO West Pacific, as well as the team is securing leadership for the troops. And with our leadership for the troops, we have 2 unrelated adults is our minimum amount that we have for leadership for our troops at all time. If there is a ratio that we have in our volunteer essentials as well as in our overseas committee management team that we do discuss, ensure that the work for the overseas committee is financed. So of course you're making sure that the money is there. You're not overextending the overseas committee's commitment financially. Then of course the overseas committee chair and the management team have services that they are to provide to their local troops, such as partnering with the USAGSO West Pacific in support of all organizational goals. And then there's a membership piece, such as organizing and maintaining your troop, making sure everybody's registered for the current year, provide for the health and safety of the girls in the program there locally, appointing and recognizing and evaluating your leaders annually, ensure that leaders receive their required training for the positions. There's the financial aspect. So you want to make sure that you're managing the troops and the overseas committee finances. The finances coming in with the cookie program, that you're planning conducting any of your overseas committee fundraisers by the installations regulation. Every one of your installations have a different regulation with fundraising, so you need to check with your legal or your private org office. That you're soliciting funds from private organizations if they're available. You may have an organization that gives small grants that are there on your installation. Seek out, find out about it, and then of course apply for it. Maintain all of your overseas committee equipment. Provide an account for any basic resources for each of your troops, which may include, if you have startup funds, handouts, handbooks that you're giving, or journey books, making sure they know the access for safety activity checkpoints, and of course any of the West Pacific resources. Now, as part of being a chair, you do have 3 keys to your role. So first it is, what we do in Girl Scouting is all done because of our fundamental commitment to girls. So when the challenges of your position threaten to overwhelm you, keep that simple fact in mind, and it'll help you keep things in perspective. And so second, really good overseas committee chairs are always asking, who will be doing this job when my time in West Pacific is over? So take the time to be a mentor. Help other volunteers in your overseas committees learn about your job. And when you see someone with talent, encourage her or him to apply when the position is open. And third, have a good time. If you truly enjoy your position and have fun doing it, then the girls and the adults who work with you will enjoy their experience in Girl Scouting as well. You can count on USAGSO West Pacific staff to help make your time as the Overseas Committee Chair a memorable and rewarding part of your overseas experience. So as you're thinking of those 3 keys in your mind, we're going to take a look at that overseas committee management team. So each overseas committee is organized in such a manner as best to meet local needs. So the overseas committee chair is appointed by the lead advisor, and then the chair is going to appoint their team. So there are required positions. You have, again, the overseas committee chair, treasurer, secretary, and registrar. So those are the 4 positions. Now, the overseas committee chairs cannot and should not perform all functions, nor should it be a husband and wife team. So we wouldn't appoint a husband and wife team. Now, when you might be thinking, okay, so how does this overseas committee management team work? How many people should I have? Well, if you are a small OC, let's say you have 5 troops, you might have an OCMT that looks like this. You have the overseas committee chair, a treasurer, secretary, registrar, and your cookie sales manager. You definitely want to have a cookie salesperson. Okay. Then a large overseas committee management team that may be supporting 20 troops might look like this. Overseas committee chair, a treasurer, secretary, registrar, cookie sales manager. They might have a PR person, special events person, a host nation liaison. They may have troop organizers and consultants. So you may have, with this overseas committee chair, they have 2, or maybe they have 3 of them. It's going to be dependent on your size of your overseas committee on how many people you'll have on that team. So once you have your team in place, you're going to have your different reports. So you know your secretary should be doing minutes and your treasurer should be doing their financial report. So each meeting of the overseas committee or the overseas committee management team should be documented with minutes taken by the secretary or their designee. The minutes should include the financial report submitted by the treasurer. And minutes should be reviewed at the next meeting, and members should vote on any proposed changes and keep a file of previous minutes. These provide continuity for your overseas committee, and many installations require them as part of your file with your private organization office or your legal office. So again, with your installations, you're unique, so you need to make contact with your private org office or if it's your legal office to find out what documents that they require for you to turn in. So this may be something in which they would like to have your minutes every month, or they may say quarterly. Okay? So internally, though, for USAGSO purposes, minutes should be submitted with your monthly report to your lead advisor no later than the 15th of each month, and that's through September and June. And then again, with your financial reports, those should be submitted as well so that we have that on record here in headquarters. So with the guide that we've talked about, this Overseas Committee Management Team Guide, it has all the information that we've been discussing with the job description and has those pathway pieces that are inside of there talking about where the programmatic aspects are, and this is covered by 18 sections. So it'll have your role of the Overseas Committee, your management team, chairs, the ins and outs of volunteer management. It is updated annually, so if you have on your bookshelf one from 2 or 3 years ago, go ahead, toss that. You have one annually. They've already been sent out for the years. We send them out every summer. And then the OCMT position guides for secretary, registrar, treasurer, and your pathway coordinator are also inside of the guide. But again, they're also included in our Dropbox folder. So for those of you who don't know Dropbox is an electronic storage site. So what we have in that paper binder of those 18 sections is also in our Dropbox folder electronically. So whenever we have any updates, we will let you know. May it be on that monthly call or it is an email that we're sending out. And then when we do update it, we put it in the Dropbox, so it's very easy for you to print out and to put into your paper binder. Now, as you're going on, you have your leader meetings and your OCMT meetings. Again, the Overseas Committee Management Team, you may have a small or you may have a large team, and that is okay, but you meet as often as it is necessary to carry out the work of your committee. And the minimum numbers of meetings is described in the Constitution and bylaws. And at minimum, this must be done every other month. And these meetings should be documented again with minutes. Now, the leaders meeting, these are monthly meetings that you have your entire Overseas Committee come together. The key to the effective meeting is good planning and use of an agenda. Again, these meetings must be documented with minutes, and the leaders' meeting should be no longer than 1 to 1.5 hours. Now, 2 hours if there's an enrichment. And then the minutes should include the financial reports submitted by the treasurer, and then, of course, they should be of PAL. So they have a purpose, agenda, and a time limit to them. So when you're taking a look, you've got your meetings in place, you have your people in place on your team. You may be saying, okay, what do I have available in my area? Well, if you go to your binder that you saw from the previous Overseas Committee Chair, you may already have a community profile done. Woo! And that's great. But you still should update it because this form allows you to plan for your year utilizing the installation identified resources. And the community profile itself is due to your lead advisor by September 15th of each year. And listed below are just some of the different aspects that you see here, unique aspects of your location, Girl Scout membership, school serve, facility notes, homeschool contacts, as well as any service groups that you have in your area. It also asks for any population characteristics, area demographics. We'd love to have you send us a map of your installation because installations are building up all the time, taking down, so there may be buildings that have changed in just 12 months there. As well as there is a place to list your on-base and off-base resources. For some of the installations, you have some wonderful off-base resources that you utilize with your host nation, Girl Scout troops of Japan or Korea. So list that so that this goes in that binder as the person that comes behind you, they know that off-base resource. Once you have your team together, you have your resources together, it's time to put it down on paper, and that's called your plan of work. And the plan of work is a simple Word document that expands and where you're going to put down your future state, your ideas, what you're going to take action, your timeline, how you're going to help each other, and if there's any cost to anything that you're planning. And you just put it in categories for rural and adult membership, troop pathway. With the troop pathway, that is what our troops are. It's a different pathway. We have 6 of them in Girl Scouting, and these are the ways our girls participate, or I should say our members, because even our volunteers may not all be troop leaders. They may be involved in series pathways. So a series is just that. It's focused on a topic. So let's say you wanted to do a hiking program and where the girls are going to work up to hiking one of the mountains there, but they have to meet 4 different times. It's a series with that. And then you have your event pathway. What are you going to plan for your big thinking day that you're having? Maybe you're having a Founders Day celebration October 31st in remembrance of Juliette Lowe's birthday. These big events that you may have. Maybe you have an International Scouting Day that's there. So your event pathway. then your camp pathway. For our overseas committees, they do day camps. So a day camp, a day camp doesn't have to be a week long. It could be just over the weekend. It could be just that, a day camp. So it's one day on the Saturday. What is your camp pathway that you're going to do? And then travel pathway. Are your older girls planning on doing a big trip? Are you going to have something where you're inviting girls from different overseas committees to be part of this travel pathway that you're going to take girls to a different country? This is great. What is your plan for the travel pathway? And of course, we cannot forget your volunteers that are there. So adult development, that's training. What's your plans for the year for training? And then what are you going to do to recognize them throughout the year? Not just one time, throughout the year. Put the plan on paper. There's also general administration that we have as well, such as making sure that people understand the national program portfolio, and that is our journeys and our badges that we have. That we have our Constitution, bylaw, record retention, overseas committee budget, site visits, as well as any military documentation deadlines. So let's take a look at each of those. So here is our national program portfolio. It is our journeys books. We have 3 books for each of the different age levels, as well as we have our Girl Guides to Girl Scouting. That's where our Girl Scout handbook is at and where the badges are. So that's our national program portfolio. Then, as I had mentioned a little earlier, talking about our plan of work, we have our different pathways. So we have girls and volunteers that just do camp. They just travel. They're just doing events. Maybe they want to do series. If you have our older girls, they may be participating in a GSUSA sponsored virtual pathway with that. And then we have our troops. So there's different ways that our girls and our volunteers can participate in Girl Scouting. For you, as you're going through and you're putting all this together, you may be asking, wow, there's just so many different pieces that I have to look over, and I've gone to my hut in my office and there's so much paperwork that's there. So what do I need to keep? So let's take a look. Here's our record retention piece. So you have your Overseas Committee Management Program or Management Guide, the current edition. So you'll have things that are kept permanently, you'll have things that are kept a couple of years, some that are just the current year, and there are things in where you are just going to keep them 1 or 2 years, and that's it. So here we have our record retention file on screen. So one of the pieces we have spoken about a little earlier were Constitution and bylaws. We kind of alluded to that. So what are those? In Girl Scouts, we are part of a private organization structured on each of our military installation, and as such is required to have a Constitution and bylaw. And the OC operates in accordance with these bylaws. Now, the Constitution and bylaws are written by USAGSO West Pacific, and they don't override any of our policies or procedures or our volunteer practices. And the forms, you just submit those. Please make sure you submit them to your lead advisor as well as to your private organization office in regards to 2 weeks prior to the due date so that we can review them. Now here on this screen is just a copy of what the Constitution looks like, and as you see here, it's very simple. You just put your name in. You're not writing the Constitution, you're just putting your information in so that you can submit it to your lead advisor as well as to your private org or legal office as required by your installation. Same as the Constitution, the bylaws, you're just entering your name. Now another form that you're required to turn in to your lead advisors as well as to your private org office may ask for your financial records. You don't need to turn into your budget, so it's 2 separate things. So if they ask, you're going to turn in your finance report, not your budget. But this is what our budget looks like. You're turning into your lead advisor. And it's a very simple piece here. You're adding your name, the date, you're putting in the cash that's on hand, troop funds, what you're planning for your income, what you're planning for your expenses. And then you're going to talk to this with your overseas committee management team. It's been approved by them, and then you will submit it to your DMM/lead advisor for your area. Another piece that happens in the fall and early part of January, February is site visits. That's where you will have your lead advisor will come down, and you'll have all these wonderful times to show your meeting location, where we visit your hut. We take what we call the windshield tour of the installation, go over any budget forms, questions you have, paperwork with that time, as well as meet with any key community members. So again, these site visits happen in the late fall because, of course, we need time for people to get together, and it may go into the January, February time period depending on your location and when you start up. Site visits are always a fun thing for the girls as well as for the overseas committee management team. It gives you the time to show off your overseas committee. Another piece, of course, is volunteer management. Inside of your overseas committee management team binder, we have all of our different pieces and where we discuss our recruiting, screening, interviewing, appointment, training, recognition, and evaluation period. As you are listening to this recording, if you have already been appointed as the overseas committee chair, you've gone through all of these elements with your lead advisor. So as you're going through this with your team, you're appointing them, and then of course as you're going with your troop leaders, you'll hit these elements of volunteerism once again. We're recruiting, and then at the end of the year where we have recognition and evaluation. There are several resources that are available to you that helps you with the position, such as our Volunteer Essential. This is the go-to resource for West Pacific. It talks about our operations, shops, our program, volunteer screening process, health, safety, finance, and all the program resources. Then we have Safety Activity Checkpoints, which is a document created by Girl Scouts of the USA. When preparing for any activity with the girls, everyone always begins with the checkpoints that are written specifically for that particular activity. There's also a list of activities inside Safety Activity Checkpoints that lets you know these are things that as Girl Scouts we do not do. Then, of course, there's the volunteer practices. The practices are established upon the principle that successful accomplishment of the USAGSO West Pacific goals and objectives is based upon qualified and trained volunteers. So the volunteer personnel practices is there to let you know all the basics that we have from our application, our selection, membership, that we are affirmative action, but it also has conflict management steps for you and your team to follow, as well as if there is the appointment piece as releasing a volunteer are listed in there too. Now throughout this call we kept referring to lead advisors or /DMMs, Director of Membership and Marketing. With that, that's your staff support. That's the person that is here to help the Overseas Committee Chair. So throughout the year, there are several different things that will be going on, such as communicating. May it be in person, it might be via Skype or other social media, webinar, email, telephone, supporting membership development, goal setting, volunteer development, maybe having trainings that are there in your area, supporting any special events, if there's any conflict, helping with the mitigation, annual reviews, adult recognition, as well as support to the Overseas Committee Chair Referral Committee. So we've talked about all these different forms. We talked about our teams. We talked about paperwork and resources. You may be asking, oh, so when do I turn this in? Well, great question. Here you see is our yearly deadline and expectation. Now, this is actually a 3-page sheet, but we have one of the pages here, and you'll see this inside of your binder as well as in the Dropbox. It's broken down to let you know exactly what is due. So in the first column has a listing of either the activity or the paperwork. So very first one, the Overseas Committee Plan of Work, is due on the 15th of September and is deliverable to the DMM or / lead advisor. And then this chart, you keep it there. You can then check it off. It was completed on this day and received by what's specific on this day. It's a great check off list to have. So if something didn't get to the specific place it needed to, you're like, I know this person said they did it, and this was turned in by this time. So it's a really great sheet to have in your binder for your Overseas Committee Management team. With this. So again, you'll have things that are West-specific deadlines. You'll have your internal Overseas Committee deadlines. These are just pieces here. You may have additional ones that you'll add on. You may have installation deadlines. Again, it's going to be determined by your private org or your legal office that's on your installation. Every installation is a little different. Now, there also are some commonly used forms by your Overseas Committee Management team. We talked about a few of them. The monthly report, due on the 15th. There's different insurance forms if you're having events as well as camp, so large sleepovers. Then there's different membership forms, such as your registration transmittal form, or RTF as it's called, the membership due summary, membership forms for girls and adults. As you are meeting with your lead advisor, as well as training for the different position. There are online webinar pieces, just as we're doing for the Overseas Chair. There's one even for our registrar and our treasurer as well as secretary, and it describes the different forms, but your lead advisor is always there to help you. But these are different forms that are turned into what's specific, and they have specific due dates, and they are listed on that yearly deadline and expectation chart. There also are commonly forms for the leaders and members to turn into the Overseas Committee Management team. So your cash advance and deposit expenses. So your treasurer is going to set a date when they want those turned into them monthly. Approval requests for troop activities. So that's any time your troop is leaving their site, their meeting site, they have to have approval from the Overseas Committee chair or designee on the management team. Any money earning activity application, your troops have to actually turn this application into you, and the reasoning for that is based off of your installation. You may have very stringent fundraiser regulations and policies, so you want to make sure that your troops are going through you first, so they're not going out there and putting money earning activities out on their own. There's going to be times where your registrar is going to ask for those membership forms to be turned into them. You're going to want your troops to turn in their troop monthly report in enough time so that you can turn in the Overseas Committee one by the 15th each month. So you're going to set dates for that. Then there's Overseas Committee activity forms such as health history, medication permission, permission to release a girl, parent permission, authorization for medical treatment for a minor when you're going on trips, medical health exam when they're going on trips. So there's several different forms that are there. And each of the forms, there's a description on what they're used for on the form itself. And if you don't understand where those forms should go, always contact your local lead advisor. They're here to help you. So, with all of the information that we've discussed, we know we have forms that are out there. We know we have positions to fill. We also know that thankfully there is a chart there that lets us know when we can dispose of certain records so that our huts or our offices are clean. We only have the forms and materials that we need. There is also a yearly deadline worksheet so that you know when to turn in things when. Well, here we also have an Overseas Committee planning calendar. So this is just a sample from June to November here that you see on the screen. Is showing the things that you will be doing. So in the time frame in the summer, this is where we're appointing the chairs and we're finishing our paperwork up from the year before. But also the new chair is putting and recruiting their new members for their team. And then in August, it's all about gearing up for the new year. year. September, it's putting all your plans for recruitment in action, turning in your paperwork that is due by the 15th. In October, you're going off. Our new year has started. Girl Scouting goes from October 1st, membership-wise, October 1st to September 30th. So you're still conducting your Girl Scout recruitment and registration events. You're making sure you have those one-time registrations marked by that October 1st, but you're still looking at all the great things that you're going to be planning with your girls. So that plan of work is still evolving, but you're going to put some big things in place, such as having your Juliet Lowe birthday celebration. You're probably going to meet with your installation commander just briefly to let them know about the Girl Scout program. In November, you're talking about all of your wonderful winter activities, but then you're planning ahead because the cookie program starts in January. So your cookie manager will go through their training and then start training your leaders in November and in December. And then you're planning for your Thinking Day event in February. December is whatever your holiday service projects, completing your training of your leaders for the cookie program. Maybe you'll have a cookie rally during that time, which is always fun. January, you start implementing your winter recruitment for your girls and your adults because you want to meet and exceed your goal that you set during your plan of work for that September 15th, because you maybe want to have that President's Award. So you got to meet all your goals. Put those plans in action. It's a great thing. In January, the cookie program begins. February, you have your Thinking Day event. You're planning for your Girl Scout activities and your Girl Scout weeks. That's going to happen in March. March is Girl Scout week. With that, April, you have where you're conducting additional recruitments for your spring events, for your summer camps that you're putting together. And in May, you're still doing your recruitment and you're registering for your summer program, but you're also planning to have your financial records audit, and you're promoting your summer activities, and you're holding your bridging events or your end of the year recognition event for the OC. So here is just a basic calendar of events that you may have on your plan of work already, and if not, you can add it still now. Now, that was a lot of information that we went over for our orientation here. You do have lead advisors for each of your areas that are here to support you. So to contact your local lead advisor, on the screen here you see the email address for our mainland Japan installations, which is West Pacific dmmj@gmail.com, and for our Okinawa and South Korea location, it's West Pacific dmmoki@gmail.com. I want to thank you for participating in the webinar, and as always, we do appreciate the time and effort you put into creating a wonderful Girl Scout program in your local community. So if you have any questions, please again contact your local lead advisor at the email address on the slide. And I want to wish you a wonderful day and success for your upcoming Girl Scout year. Bye-bye.